Hey guys, Cardmaster Phoenix here, back for another deck profile. This time we will be covering Zeal, or rather Zeal with the alien subclan slash archetype, because every card in here is an alien race, subclan, archetype, whatever you want to call it. Obviously it's not as meta as stuff like Gurglet, Diablo, stuff like that, but it will definitely provide more than stable defenses, as well as annihilating whatever power your opponent's accumulated, because you'll just be constantly taking them down and tearing down walls, which is insane. We'll get into that a bit later anyway. People tend to underestimate this deck, and that costs them games. This deck is actually pretty powerful for a very budget-friendly deck, and it really is, because I believe you can pick this up for, $20 max, so, yeah, it's, and most of that is because you're running 4 PGs, so, anyway. So I'm, getting over a cold or whatever I have. Haven't been to the doctor yet, which is why I've been coughing a lot and sniffing / sneezing in the card fight video with Swaggy Pete. Anyway, for honorable mentions, I just want to cover the Legion card, New Era Bestial. It's amazing. It's a free Galactic Bestial skill, and it allows you to countercharge and soul charge, which is good for unflipping the damage that you use. But this deck isn't incredibly counterblast heavy. You should not really have max cards counterblasted. I feel that you should always have cards to counterblast in this deck, because you're not going to use it that often. Plus, again, it is super budget friendly, along with being just the right amount of competitivity along with that. Just that you can actually annihilate opponents. She's like, oh, you're playing that deck, and then you're like, skill, ride from G1 to G2, ride from G2 to G3, skill, minus 3k, skill, Vanguard, minus 5k, skill, attack, it hit, minus another 3k, so that's like, it's just insane. You practically delete the opponent's Vanguard at this rate of all the power you can drain from it. But it is just a great card. We couldn't fit the space because we just struggled getting the OG Zeal in. So we just clearly didn't have any space for him. But I am glad to see that they did a Legion. I'm just glad to see a Legion done right in my eyes. Also, it's just dedicate a tombstone in the memory of a loving memorial for all the time lost making this deck profile when I should have been studying for a DPT. Rest in pieces. Alright. Of course, moving on to the starter, we're running the G1. The G0 Zeal. You search top 7 on the G1, Zeal rides on top of it for the G2 Zeal. That sets up all your combos. And for some reason, which you really should never have to, if you just can't manage to get the G1 Zeal out, you can, of course, just call him back out to rear guard. But between G assists and other things such as that, and the way I have the deck set up, I don't believe it'll happen. Moving on to the triggers, we have 12 crits, all aliens crits. We have 4 Justice Cobalt, 4 Justice Cobalt, 4 Justice Cobalt, 4 Justice Cobalt, 4 Justice Gold, and 4 Deadeye Monster Gorgon. Just a standard 12 crits, because I don't like using stands as opposed to crits, because stands, you stand a unit 5k power, but that's maybe 12k. But you can just drop 5, 10, whatever, to block it. as for when they're letting an attack through, you not only power up your rear guard to the same efficiency, but you're still getting that guaranteed extra damage in when you give the critical to a unit that's going to be hitting anyway. So it's just damage that they can't avoid if they just don't guard it. And draws aren't really worth it because we have decent hand management. We do pretty much G1 rush. We just call out all our cards. We ride G1, call out as many cards as possible. Hit, boom. It's quite possible to have your opponent annihilated by the end of the turn that you have your G3 out because of the cards you run and how it works. Unless they intentionally save like criticals or whatever in their hand to guard with against you anyway. 4 Justice Rose, just because, standard heal. 3 of the G1 Zeal because, again, this deck is very, very, very early game rush. You want to deal as much damage as possible before they get to start 3. Start to stride phases, you don't want that happening. You want to crush them like a little maggot. That way they can cause little to no problem for you. This deck excels at making the opponent's Vanguard weak. Very, very weak. Again, aforementioned practical deleting. And therefore it's best used to make the first 2 Vanguards G1, G2, maybe G3 if necessary. Crush your opponent. You want to just call your hand, get it, kill them ASAP. The G3 allows not only Legion options, but -5 to the van, the opponent's van, 1 for each, 6, 1 for each rear guard other than that, so that's, of course, 5 plus the Legion mate, so that's -6k, plus the, if you have 2 plasms that hit, it's 12k, and that's just, this is the only deck where you can make your opponent's Vanguard have negative power, so, yeah. I'm kidding, guys. It can't go below 0. It's just so great. It annihilates, gives you magic numbers. Very bad on your opponent's hand size. So, this is even good against Bermudas. But yeah, you just kind of want to crush him super fast, but hopefully before you get to grade 3, and it's definitely possible. If you haven't crushed them by the second turn you're on your G3, you're kind of playing the deck wrong, and by that point you've lost, really, so, yeah. This guy's only at 3 because of the same reason that G2 is. I'll get into that later. I could easily take out the copies of the cards I am not going to use, I know, but it's just, we need to consider our oh so valuable hand size, because we blast through it in the first 2-3 turns, so yeah. Plus you want to get a hit via the starter skill, so yeah. 3 Vanguard Booster, Psychic Ray. It is freaking awesome that we get to boost for 10k without even having to pay a cost, because it goes active for 10k boost whenever it boosts against your... Whenever it boosts to Vanguard, if the opponent's power is 8,000 or less, it just goes an extra 4k, so that's 10k booster, of course. Magic numbers. Also, it annihilates cards from their hand if they decide to guard it because they know it's happening. Or you take them completely by surprise on how fast you pile up their damage zone. But yeah. You either have to use crazy amounts of guard or not, and to not get heavy damage pile up, or to get heavy damage pile up and they're dead before they know it because they can't guard. Anyway, that's just one of the reasons we run this card. One of many. It's a very, very new modern card. I feel it's exclusively used to this deck because This is the only deck where you constantly reduce power. And this is the only deck where it works, and it's by far the most free between Glory Maker and that other one. Because Glory Maker is pretty much limit break 4. You limit break, it boosts you 10k, but you don't want to be waiting until you have 4 damage. You want to be you don't want to be the one taking the damage. You want to be the one dealing the damage. So that's why this one's out. And then of course, so yeah, it just is a double-sided win for the whole guarding or damage pile-up thing. Just makes it easier to use, again, because it's much more modern Glory Maker. Radium, whatever you call it. It is only a 9k booster, but it requires Counterblast, and this one's a 10k booster for free, so you definitely want to just run this one. Glory's a good second for any deck, but this is just the best one by far for this exact deck because of the power decreases we make. We don't run Commanders in the deck because it requires not using the entire rest of the field, which, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of messes up the whole point of this deck, and it's counterintuitive for what it stands for. Anyway, moving on, we have 4 Evolution Monster Radium, perfect for G3 tactic. It gets both replacement rear guard if you have used up an intercept to guard, and it just gets an extra guard from the opponent since it reduces the power. That combined with everything else, it's just insane. And of course it builds Soul, which is pretty helpful for something else that we have later. Moving on, we do have, of course, jeez, if I can just not spoil the entire deck, thank you. We have 4 Perfect Guard, not Perfect Guard G, just the regular Perfect Guard Diamond Ace, the OG Perfect Guard for Dimension Place. Sometimes there are rear guards worth dropping a card to protect, you know. Plus, I mean, I just like being able to guard anything, and again, it is a alien card, so that fits in with the subclan. Plus, again, it just helps keep true to the budget-friendly name, while still getting a good deck, and you get a nullify on the rear guard attacks that they make as well, which surprisingly is kind of ideal because it comes in handy, and again, it sticks to the alien subplan, race, whatever you want to call it. Next up, we have my own personal tech card for the deck. We have 2 Foxy Charmer. I apologize. This card is, this card's your ideal rear guard booster because it gives -1k to each of your opponent's rear guards in the same column as it. So, of course, you have both of them as rear guards and the 2 back column. That's all 4 of your opponent's rear guards going -1k each, and surprisingly, that really can give you the magic numbers you need to pop rear guards if you really want some. It's pretty small support, but very important support. It's ironic considering I pulled this card out of my very first pack opening of Glorious Bravia of Radiant Sword. And not only that, but I just made this deck because it was the easiest build for me to make, since I found it both competitive and budget and a perfect balance between the two. So it's just ironic that everything loops back to this deck, this subclan, and just this card in general. Anyway, it's not really a good regional or national idea, but if you want to go ahead and take this to your locals, I mean, you'll definitely win at least one game, if not more. Because, again, they will underestimate this deck, and they will get crushed. It's just fun to mess around with, and it's super fun to play around the house, because, I mean, it's so fun. If you have, like, what I call shop tournaments at your local store. Where you and like say 5 other people compete or whatever in a tournament for store credits, sometimes actual cold hard cash. Yeah, it just, I mean, it really is amazing. Again, it is my tech card. Use this card. This card would be the replacement for Stride Fodder since we don't use, because again, Stride's a bit expensive, even if you aren't a rarity. A rarity horror like me. I'm sorry, that's just the technical term for it. Because it does get expensive. Plus, striding goes over our G3 and annihilates the effects that we work so hard to attain. So again, it's counterintuitive. Because when you stride over the G3, its effect goes away. You only get the G-force effect. The strides to me aren't that good, and then that reduces the power decrease, which makes the opponent's Vanguard go back up in power, which is losing not only the grip of this deck, but everything that we work for. Anybody who knows me knows that I really don't like doing this, but deck space was so hard to come by, so one copy, a one of Platinum Ace. This card will only be used when you're on your G2 ride. You can either ride the G2 Zeal or this card. I personally prefer this card, but if you care about keeping with the ride chain, you can of course run the other G2 Zeal. Its skill is it goes critical if you have over 13,000 power, I believe. 13,000. So, I mean, that plus the Alien Gray that you should have behind this, it'll always be over 13,000. So it'll be just critical, and then the 3 attacks you make one on your first turn. This will be worth 3, and it'll just, 2, and then you still have 2 other attacks. It'll just be very devastating, and that's assuming you don't get crits or anything, and it just annihilates them. And again, it is useful for that just one turn only, but I just find it important. We still need the ride chain to start our G2 combos and above, but I do like the extra critical, and yeah, I just want to be sure that if you want to go for this guy, be sure to get him in your opening hand, because if you even go into him, he'll end up as damage or something, and that's not good. So, yeah. Also can lead into you missing him when you need him or want him. 3 copies of what I would call the MVP if every grade 2 in this deck wasn't so flipping amazing. We got Ion Isolation Monster Plasm. This card in the one of Ace is what I replaced for taking out 2 gun rocks that I had, because originally I only had space for 1 more card plus the 2 gun rocks. So I took it out to make the 3 plasms and the 2 plasms and the 1 Ace. Then I took a 1 copy of a G4, the G1 Zeal, to boost it up 3. I'm very happy with my changes. They're ideal for the deck. They both need to be used. Putting them at the copies I did saved the day here, because this guy in Bug Read, it won't really matter which formation you have, long as you're playing 1 or 2 of the combination of both. His skill is Counterblast 1 on the Vanguard or Rearguard Circle when it hits. You choose your opponent's Vanguard minus 3k. Zeal makes you go minus 5k. That plus the G2 Zeal makes you go minus another 3k, so that's 8k. And then, of course, this is another 3k if it hits. That gives your opponent's Vanguard legitimately 0 power, unless it's a cross-ride unit, which it most likely isn't going to be. So, again, very heavy, very destructive, very good. 3 copies of the G2 Zeal. It's a really, really sweet spot for the ride, because it annihilates your opponent. Minus 3k makes you go up to 10. huge magic number difference, boost of Gray, regardless who went first, which is another great point that this deck has to it. Going first doesn't matter or make you more likely to lose. In fact, it's just as awesome. So either one, you're just as like, whether you go first, second, you're just as likely to win. It doesn't matter. After this, it gets a bit difficult to win. So again, just try to kill them within the first grade 1, grade 2 era of your game. If you really, really have to, kill them by the same turn you ride your G3, or else it'll just get difficult for you. It's just the way I have the deck set up. It's certainly possible to pull off a win before it does, of course, but that does vary by game. I took this guy down to 2, that way we can run an extra copy of the previous card, this guy. Overall, it helps us pull out a win before they can pull out one, which of course, again, does vary by game, but I just think that we can still run it down to 2 if we want to. That way we can run an extra copy. We still have enough to draw into him and have him as damage, and still have an extra copy or 2 remaining in the deck. The other guys are much more consistent, and pretty much it's this guy's effect only more usable, so that's why. For Bug Read, when this card hits, you draw. It's amazing. It helps you fix your problems with drawing the cards that you heavily use on your first few turns. Gets it back, and you really can get Bermuda-sized hands sometimes with this. And any person who's fought the clan or used it knows what I'm saying. Again, we feel hand size that we depleted. Just call out this powerhouse, and it'll be damage dealing, and the aggression in this deck makes it very suitable to me. I only had 2 Gundrock at first when I took him out because he's certainly a great attacker, but we have better attackers and for better skills in my mindset. And just this guy allows the same conditions are met, only for a better use in him, so we needed to take him out for better cards in the deck. Besides, of course, your G guards and your other cards that you might have, like triggers to guard with, your main card that you want to guard with outside of that is the Menacing Monster, Golinus, whatever. Soul Blast 1 when he's put on Guardian Circle. Opponent's Vanguard goes minus 5k, which is insane. If you throw it on, even if your opponent's at Stride, you throw it on all 4 of these, minus 20,000 power. It's plus all the extra shield combined with these cards, which is another 20,000. It's just really insane. Very useful effect again, very great timing. That way I don't have to do it over again for the new set, which, because of my little OCD problems, I probably would start from scratch. I just like this deck because it reminds me of the DC supervillains. But, like, these guys aren't exactly evil, because, in fact, if you look on the Cardfight Vanguard wiki, Clans Cardfight Vanguard wiki, under the alien archetype subclan thing, it actually says that technically they're not evil. They're just they're as kind of like anti-heroes because they fight to protect what they love. They just don't do it by the normal hero standards, which I think makes them cool. It's a nostalgia bomb, kind of, back to good old days. Because yes, I lived when electronics weren't as prevalent. Mind me sometime in the future, I might make a vlog about it. I'm so glad I got support, because I remember back when it first came out, I thought how unique they were for decreasing the power of the opponent's Vanguard, which at the time, and even to this day isn't hardly even heard of, much less used. Plus, you never really use the soul, so it's not a problem either. And then that plus Damien fills soul, or whatever card it was that fills the soul. Anyway, So of course I absolute this card a lot. So we never have a problem using the skill. And then you can use him as an intercept or go double bug raid on your first turn or whatever combination. And use this card as guard, triggers it. Your opponent's Vanguard won't be getting through and you'll be dealing a lot of damage is basically the short, sweet point of this. And whatever extra cards you get from Bug Raid, you can use those extra cards to guard. And defend even further, decrease power again. It's doubling. By far one of the best G2s I've ever laid my eyes on. Legit, no complaints. I really think that. Finally, we have 2 copies of Galactic Beast Zeal. I mean, look, what can I say, man? It's just that. I did warn you guys at first that I wasn't going to have the time to put in, well, the space, I mean, to put in more than this. But you should have him before he ends up his damage. If not, well, you're kind of screwed, pal. But this just is too good. The other cards are too good to take out, so this card at 2. Plus all the draws you'll get, plus the starting hand that you have the possibility of getting him. It's just you'll probably get him. Counterblast 2 at LB4 at Limit Break. Again, the minus 5k. It stacks the other skills I previously mentioned. And of course, it's 11k base with the G2 Zeal and the Soul. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching so much. That's the end of the deck profile. As for the G Guardians, we are really just using 4 Screw You because it's a 25k shield, and there's no point in actually using us using strides. So again, pretty much 4 Screw. Well, no, 3 Screw and 1 Dismal. I believe I had it. So thank you guys again for just being flat out best audience on YouTube and allowing me to perform and look like an idiot in front of you guys. It means so much to me. And thank you guys for watching and liking and commenting and everything. It really, really does just mean so incredibly much to you guys. Much to me, guys. You guys are just the best. Anyway, guys, this has been